Welcome to day, I don't know what day it is of the Inquisition. We're in a new Inquisition. People are getting fired. People are getting purged. Everything seems to make no sense. And the latest thing that makes no sense, which just gives power to the woke ideologues, thousands of scientists go on strike to protest systemic racism in STEM. That's right. Today, we must protest the racial institution that is science. I'm not kidding. More than 5,000 scientists and 2 prominent scientific journals shut down operations and pledged to use the day to address racial inequalities in science. Well, the crazy people are taking more ground. And it's funny because the left often argued that the right was anti-science. And sure, that changed, didn't it? Now who's anti-science? J.K. Rowling made a post, I don't know if you saw this, where she was like, please respect my lived experience as a biological female. And they attacked her for it. Because they don't believe in science. They're creepy weirdos. Well, let's read the creepy weirdo story from CNBC. Thousands of scientists across the world stopped working on Wednesday to protest institutional racism, a strike that follows 2 weeks of demonstrations spurred by the death of George Floyd while in police custody. More than 5,000 scientists and 2 prominent scientific journals shut down operations and pledged to use the day to address how racial inequalities in science produce bias in research and scholarship, and to focus on long-term plans to dismantle entrenched racism in science, technology, engineering, and math fields. Yes, the great racism that is math. Can't have 2 plus 2. You know why? Racist. Quote, in the wake of the most recent murders of black people in the U.S., it is clear that white and other non-black people have to step up to do the work to eradicate anti-black racism. The website for Shut Down STEM said, no, this is a cult taking over by forcing unrelated institutions to give them power and bend the knee. Listen, look at someone like DeRay McKesson, one of the a very, very high profile Black Lives Matter activist. And what you will see is the legitimate grievances that the real activists have. Unfortunately, his voice is being drowned out. Now, I haven't listened to everything he said, but he recently did a video talking about police reforms. Police reforms most people agree with. Things like, hey, no chokeholds. All right. Hey, right on. Okay. There are a lot of reforms that can be implemented to actually help people. This is exploitation of Black Lives Matter. And that's what we've been seeing with the woke ideologues who have infiltrated. And it's not just my opinion. We've actually heard from former Black Lives Matter activists over the past several years coming out and saying this. Like, what does this have to do with ending police brutality? Listen. I don't like police brutality. It exists. I don't think every cop is bad. I think most cops are actually pretty good. I think a lot of people have negative experiences with police, and that makes it very easy for them to take things to a dark place. But I think it can be fair to say that we can reform things in better ways, notably in big cities. And yes, that are run by Democrats. That's just reality. You're going to have to accept it. But when I see someone like DeRay, you know, again, one of the most prominent Black Lives Matter activists, talk about reforming the police department, I'm like, I got you. I hear you. Sounds good to me. Then you get the weirdos saying, abolish the police, abolish the courts. No, that is far left ideological nonsense, exploiting what Black Lives Matter was really about in the beginning. Now, I know some of you may argue Black Lives Matter has their stats wrong and there's more white people killed, things like that. Look. It's not even about that. It's about if someone comes to you and says, here's how I feel, let's have a conversation and figure out why you feel that way first and foremost. Maybe they are wrong. Maybe they're not. But we got to have a real conversation about things. This is absolutely psychotic. Going to science and being like, you have entrenched racism in math, and that's got to be dealt with. What? Math is racist? Oh, yes, because this is part of the critical race theory nonsense that has nothing to do with actual social justice. It's a manipulation to instill some kind of weird ideological revolution. And guess what? It's working and they're gaining ground. So let's start counting the minutes until I get banned. But until then, let's keep reading the story. Here's what they say. In academia, our thoughts and words turn into new ways of knowing. Our research papers turn into media releases, books and legislation that reinforce anti-black narratives, the website said. In STEM, we create technologies that affect every part of our society and are routinely weaponized against black people. Like what, dude? The overwhelming majority of technologies have benefited every single person. Sure, maybe you can argue like the invention of the taser was bad for certain people or something, but technology is neutral. It's how you use the technology. So please, Stop the nonsense. Can we please stop catering to this insanity? It's not real. They are just trying to bend institutions to their will. They say Black and Hispanic workers are significantly underrepresented in the STEM workforce. In the US, only 9% of STEM workers are Black and 7% are Hispanic. Well, hold on. Now, I'll admit that is disproportionate. The amount, I believe the Black population in the US is around 13%. And Hispanic, I believe, is much higher, but I don't know the actual numbers. It actually might be lower. 9% is only a little bit lower than proportionality. That's not bad. The bigger issue is, do they want to go into STEM? Are we talking about cultural issues? You can't just assume it's because people won't hire them. White people comprise nearly 70% of the STEM workforce and also have a higher median income than Black or Hispanic workers. Well, hold on, man. The country is 70% white, isn't it? Like 66 to 70%. That makes sense. What doesn't make sense, I guess, is the disproportionate amount of Asian people. But it really does come down to choice, doesn't it? Apparently not to these people. Here we go. Dr. Nizreen Alwan. Start by replacing the words diversity and inclusion with equity and justice. What justice in jobs, man, is? Justice is when, like, someone wrongs you, okay? Justice is when someone commits a crime. If you don't choose to go into this field, you are not being wronged by anyone. They're making assumptions about what things are happening. One research report shows that the already low percentage of Black students who receive bachelor degrees in physics, just 3.5%, has barely changed since 2006, despite the number of those degrees doubling in the past 2 decades. Black representation among physics faculty is non-existent at most institutions, according to a statement on the event website. Particles for Justice, on the website of Particles for Justice. It is widely known that Black students often feel unwelcome, unsupported, and even unsafe in their physical departments and predominantly white campus. Now this, I think, is actually a much better argument than saying that the science, math, or whatever itself is racist. But the problem is, if you don't feel comfortable, why should anyone else change for you? That's the problem. If someone is breaking the law, if someone is attacking you and insulting you, that should not be allowed. But if you just simply don't feel comfortable because it's predominantly white, that's on you. So what do we do about that? I don't know. What can you do about that? I don't think you can do anything unless you have some kind of mandate or whatever. But the issue is, if there's not enough people going into these programs, you can't change this, period. Listen, when it comes to social justice, we often hear from people that I don't like the way the world is, therefore the world should change for me. Or I feel a certain way about the world should change for me. That's impossible. The world can't possibly accommodate every single individual person. But you can change and adapt to the system. If you have a problem with, and feel uncomfortable, well, speak up, and I'm sure people will do their best to accommodate you. But if ultimately you don't choose to enter this field, it's no one's fault but your own. You can't change these things. This is the problem. This is what equity means. They want equality of outcome. That can only be forced through authoritarianism. Opportunity is given to everyone, but if they don't take it because of cultural issues, it's no one's fault but their own. It really is unfortunate. Here's what they say. It is widely, I read that. Jeff P. says, not going to touch my research today. No meetings, no papers, no writing. Instead, for shutdown for STEM, shutdown academia, my first goal is to educate myself more on how my work is inherently impacted by race and how race underlies the history of science. It's a start. You know what, man? This is ideology. Okay, they're trying to alter history. And I understand there's arguments about history being written by the winners and things like that. But look, science has gotten us very, very far. We've saved lives. We've fed billions of people. We've gone to the moon. I think it's working out fairly well. What they're talking about is not an issue of science. It's an issue of culture, expectations, and racism itself. Anyone can be racist. And if you see a system that exists, that functions, that works, and you don't like it, make your own system. No one is going to stop you. If you don't like academia because of the racial makeup, well, then start your own laboratory. If the issue is you don't have the same resources, you don't deserve to just be given resources. If someone has built something over a long period of time, You don't have the right to go in and just burn it to the ground because you don't like what it is or how it works. If someone won't let you onto their tandem bicycle, it's not your right to say, well, then destroy the tandem bicycle and no one gets to ride it. It's your responsibility then to get your own tandem bicycle. You know what? Maybe you'll have to build it yourself. Apparently, this is something that goes over the head of many young people, which brings me to the bigger problem in all of this. It's not being bolstered by minorities for the most part. It's white progressives seen chanting in a park in Bethesda, Maryland. It's a bunch of upper class and upper middle class white people claiming they're fighting the good fight, when in reality, they're just, I don't know, weirdists. Weirdo cultists. Weirdists. Sure, we'll call them that. Weirdo cultists. That's what I call them. They believe crazy things for crazy reasons, and they want you to believe it too. Well, you know what, man? It's only a matter of time. They've come for science. What's next? Yeah, well, don't say I didn't warn you, I guess. I'll leave it there. Next segment will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.